Good afternoon and welcome to the fourth concurrent session of the day, Hawks Mathematics Software Demonstration. Our presenter today is Catherine Schaefer with Hawks Learning. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. We're also giving away 3 $25 Amazon gift cards at the end of this session. To enter for a chance to win, click the link in the chat to enter your name onto the prize wheel. And on that note, I will hand it over to Catherine.
Thank you, Joanna. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And then we'll put it in present. As Joanna said, my name is Catherine Schaefer. I am an educational courseware representative for Hawks Learning. I appreciate you all coming today, and I will be sharing more in depth about our mathematics software. So a little agenda for today. We're going to start with an introduction to who Hawks Learning is. We'll go through some of our different math course offerings. We'll touch on the student experience and then instructor experience as well. So as a company, we have always maintained 3 core focuses. The first is customer support. So customer support being students and instructors. Here's 3 things that I do want to touch on. We always answer the phone when you or your student call into Hawks within the first 4 rings. It will be a live person that will be able to help you right then and there. So you don't have to go through a bunch of prompts or long hold times. So that's nice for you and your students as well. The second, we do have live chat 24/7, so we are always available. One thing with the phone is we're available Monday through Friday until 10 p.m. Eastern time. Live chat is 24/7 for you or your students. And then we also offer unlimited training and support. Our second core focus is affordability. So our combined courses cost around $15 to $20 more, and it also provides students with content that covers up to 2 to 4 courses. So on the screen right now, I have an example of what a single course cost would be, but again, the combined courses would be around $15 to $20 more and has content that would cover 2 to 4 courses typically. We also have co-requisite courses, and those typically cost around $25 more, and they combine the relevant and developmental or remedial content into the credit level course. All of our materials, when a student purchases their access code for the online platform that I'm going to share with you today, students do receive lifetime access, meaning that that access code never expires. So students will have access to that for a lifetime. So it is especially beneficial for these multi-course sequences, the co-requisite courses, or if a student has to retake a course. Our third key focus is our unique approach to helping students learn the content. We take a mastery-based approach and provide adaptive remediation. And this will be a focus of what I show you when we jump into the student side of the software. So just a little bit about our math course offerings. You can see an image here of the different ones that we offer. We offer everything from developmental courses through statistics and calculus and everything in between. So that is just a brief overview of the different math course offerings that we have. This screen is going to show you the co-requisites that we offer. So we have 5 different co-requisites for math. So we have the Viewing Life Mathematically for the quant reasoning or quant lit course, college algebra, pre-calculus, and then 2 different statistics titles. Each of these titles provide students with that just-in-time remedial content that's needed to prepare the student for their pathway to the credit level content of that lesson. Another thing I wanted to touch just briefly on before we jump into the student side is diagnostic testing. This is something that is completely optional within our math products. It is nice, especially in those co-requisite courses I see used very frequently, is that you would give the diagnostic at the beginning of the semester, students would complete it, and then it's going to tailor each student's to-do list based on how they performed. So it really gives a customized to-do list for each student based on where they struggle. So here on the screen on the left is an image of what that diagnostic looks like for students after they complete it. And then the image on the right is an example of that to-do list after they've completed it, showing where they need to focus their time. So we'll go ahead and jump into the student side. So here we're looking at the student side of the platform. I do have college algebra up on my screen, but we do all of our products, they all function the same way. Before we jump into the content or a lesson specifically, at the top of the screen, I do want to point out just a couple of features here. Starting on the far left-hand side is this grades tab. We do fully sync with different LMSs. So for example, Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, and D2L or Brightspace. So it's nice that your grades would automatically transfer. We have single sign-on options where students can access their Hawks account directly through the LMS, as well as some other features in specific ones. To the right of that is our Ebooks tab. The online access code automatically comes with access to the online PDF version of the text. So at no additional cost, students can access the ebook there. In this discussions tab, there's two features here, live chat and discussion board. Live chat is a place where you could host virtual office hours. Discussion board is a place that you could post a topic and students could thread their responses to it below. Moving towards the right of the screen, you'll see this bell. This is our internal alert system. So when a student logs in, they may see this red circle with a number inside of it. This is indicating how many items are in high priority or in need of the student's attention. When the student clicks on that bell, it will break those items up by due today, due tomorrow, or past due. So we've mimicked social media here. We know students are used to getting these notifications, so we're hoping it will draw their attention there. Next to that is our envelope. This is our internal messaging system, and it acts as an additional way to communicate with your students. It can be forwarded to your school or personal email. What I most commonly see this feature used for, though, is our automated assignment reminders. And the way that works is, let's say at the beginning of the semester, you wanted to set it up where 24 hours prior to any assignment's due date, you wanted to set it so that it would send that email reminder letting your students know that they had 24 hours or X number of hours to complete that assignment. You set it up at the beginning of the semester and you don't have to think about it again. On the flip side, I do have some instructors that I work with that prefer to send it 24 hours or X number of hours past any due date, reminding the students who have not yet completed the assignment that they could still go in and complete it for partial credit or whatever you may offer. In this drop-down menu, a couple things I'll point out. The first is this live support. This is where students can access that 24/7 live chat for the technical support questions. Below that is our training video. This is a brief video showing students how to navigate the platform. And then the last one here is our give feedback, win prizes. We love getting students and instructors feedback, and in return, we'll enter you into a monthly drawing of a gift card. Now, coming down onto the screen, when a student logs in, they'll see the course they're enrolled in. It'll have their school, their instructor's name, and the section they're in. And then they'll have this mini to-do list with any of the assignments you've already assigned to them, broken up by due today, due within a week, or due later. A student can click directly into any of these lessons from this screen, or at the top right-hand corner of this box, you'll see that they can click on this View Course button. When the student clicks on the View Course button, it's going to give them a comprehensive to-do list with anything that you've already assigned to them, again, broken up by due today, due within a week, or due later, and the corresponding due dates on the right. Now, by default, the to-do list does appear to students in chronological order, but on the instructor side, you do have the option to customize that if you choose, maybe do a modular style, so you could set it up module 1, module 2, so on and so forth. Now, all of the lessons function the same way, so I'll go ahead and click into one. Each lesson is going to have 3 modes in the recommended learning path: learn, practice, and certify. So students are going to start in this learn mode, and this is going to be a multimedia presentation of the textbook content. So in here, we have pulled out all of the information that student would find in the physical text and place them right here in these screens. So it'll include any graphs, diagrams, anything like that. We know it's hard to get students to read a textbook these days, so we want to break it out into smaller bite-sized pieces, making it easier for students to digest. At the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can see that we're on page 3 of 15. We're hoping that 15 pages of content is going to be easier for students to go through rather than staring at a 300 or 400 page textbook. So again, it will include any definitions, images, everything from that physical book. One thing I do want to point out here is that you'll see that we have an example 1. This is the same example 1 from 4.3 in the physical book. But with it being online, we're able to embed what we call our example level videos. So this video is going to be a brief video for students to access. It'll be an instructor going through or working through this example. So great for those auditory or visual learners. Staying on the topic of videos, at the top left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see this watch button. Every lesson will have this watch button, so students will be able to click on that, and it's going to be what we call our lesson level videos, where students can access, watch a brief video of an instructor talking about the lesson as a whole. These videos are brief and not meant to take the place of lecture, just to be an additional resource for students. Great for a student who maybe missed a day of class or is preparing for an upcoming test or quiz and need a quick refresher. They also have access to all of our videos at Hawks TV as well. The last thing that I'll mention in the learn mode is that on the instructor side, you do have the option to customize these screens. So we call these our learn screen notes. You can hide any of our screens, replace them with your own. You can add your own notes, add your own videos. So it is completely customizable to you if you choose. Now, once a student has gone through the learn mode, they'll go ahead and exit that, and they're ready to move on to practice. And practice is really just that. This is going to be a penalty-free environment, a place for students to practice those concepts that they were just learning. So since we're not taking the practice mode as a grade, we do offer students a number of learning aids that you'll see at the bottom of the screen, and I will jump into those in just a second. Before I do that, I want to go ahead and put in an answer here and show you the feedback that students receive. So I'll submit my answer. Just like any online system, it's going to tell the student if their answer is right or wrong. If their answer is incorrect, they'll have 2 options. They can go back and try again. Maybe they know exactly where they made their mistake, or they can click on this explain error. We actually have a built-in artificial intelligence that's going to pinpoint and diagnose common student errors. So it says here, the answer that you submitted is incorrect. While you have correctly found the y coordinate of the vertex of this function, you have made a sign error on the x coordinate of the vertex. So not only do we want to tell a student that they're wrong, we want to tell students why they're wrong, so they're learning from their mistakes in real time and not letting it be ingrained in their long-term memory. We know many times students are up late at night, 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., completing their homework. You're probably not available to help them at that time. There might not be anybody else in the household available to help them. So we want to give them the feedback that we truly believe that you would give to them if they were to come see you during office hours or class time or anything like that. Now, coming back out to practice, I do again want to mention just a couple of these learning aids you'll see at the bottom of the screen. Starting in the bottom right-hand corner is this try similar. Students can click on this. If this is a question type that they struggle with, they can click that try similar button, get the same question type, just a different iteration. Each question type is going to have roughly 50 iterations of it, so students can really work through as many of those as they wish. To the left of that is skip. Students can skip over questions. They can focus their time on the ones that they feel that they struggle with the most. Now, let's say a student gets to this question and they have no idea where to begin. In the bottom left-hand corner is this tutor button. Students can click on this, and this is going to take them step-by-step how to solve a problem. So here at the top left, you can see that we are on step 1 of 3. Students are going to work through this first step, put in their answer, and be able to move on to the second. So really holding the student's hand, walking them through how to solve the problem. I will point out on the screen at the top right-hand corner of the screen, you can see that students can toggle back to learn and go back and reference a part in the text, whether it be a definition, another example, anything like that. And then under solution, they can see a fully worked out solution of the same problem with the correct answer. Now, once a student has gone through all the practice problems, they can go ahead and exit that, and they're ready to move on to certify. And certify is just Hawk's fancy word for homework. So this is the part that we're taking for a grade. In here, you'll see it looks very similar to practice, same question types, different iterations. All of the questions in practice and in certify are algorithmically generated, so students are not receiving the same questions in the same order as their peers. The biggest difference between practice and certify is that we have removed those learning aids from the bottom of the screen. So students no longer have skip, tutor, trisimilar, or any of those. We know that when students are given crutches, they're going to learn to lean on those crutches so much that when it's time to remove them, say come test time, they're not going to be able to stand on their own. So we want to really hold students accountable for knowing this content, having them better prepared, and that way they're performing better on your tests and quizzes. The other thing that I'll mention about certify is that we do take the mastery approach. And what I mean by that is every lesson will have a number of questions. Of those questions, by default, we're expecting students to get about 80% correct. If the student reaches that 80% mastery, we're actually going to give the student a 100% in the gradebook for completing that assignment. Now, 80 is our default. You can change that on the instructor side to whatever you think is best for your students. It could be 95, 75, completely up to you. Again, 80 we just kind of found to be the sweet spot for students. So in this specific lesson at the top left, we can see we're on question 1 of 11. So there's 11 questions, but in the middle of the screen, we can see there's actually 20 points. So some have multi-step questions. So of these 20 points, we are expecting, again, students to get about 80% correct. So that means that students have a little bit of wiggle room. At the top right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see this red heart with a number 4 inside of it. This is indicating how many strikes or lives or questions that a student can miss and still receive that full credit. Now, let's say a student reaches that 5th incorrect question. So they've gone over their allotted number of strikes or lives. We're going to stop students where they are in certify. We're going to take them out of certify, place them back into practice, where they're going to receive a custom set of questions based on what they missed in certify. So they're not going back and having to start all over again. We just want them to go back and work on those 2 or 3 question types that they struggled with. And then we're going to allow them to come back into certify, attempt a new set of questions, and still have a chance at getting 100% as long as it's before the due date. Students can come into certify as many times as they need to with no penalty, again, as long as it's before the due date, because homework is where we want students to make those mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and again, that way they're better prepared and performing better on those tests and quizzes. Now, coming back out, a couple other things I do want to mention in the student side before we jump into the instructor side. We'll back out one more time, go back out to the main page. I do want to point out at the top left, you'll see these tabs here. Under lessons, this will break out just those homework lessons, but I do want to click on all real quick to just give you kind of an overview of what the integrated review or the co-requisite style courses look like. So here you'll see each of our co-requisite courses have a chapter 0, which are strategies for academic success. So these are some of these soft skills that students may struggle with, especially in that co-requisite course. But the way that the co-recs are set up in our materials is they'll have the credit level chapters. So we'll see here we have chapter 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. But before each of those chapters, there will be an integrated review chapter. So we're saying that this is what students need to know in order to be successful in that course. So I did want to just point out how that is structured in here. But the last thing I'll point out in the student side is that students have the option to create their own practice tests. So web tests is just the word we use for our online tests or quizzes, but students can create their own. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly show you what it looks like when students create their own practice tests. And for the sake of time, I'll put in some random things here. So we'll name the test, we'll give it a number of questions, and students can choose to set a time limit or not timed at all. On the left-hand side, students can click in this drop-down menu and jump around to different chapters, and they'll be able to add what lessons they want to their practice test. So you see as I click add, they're adding to the right-hand side. So again, I can jump around to the different chapters, but once you've added all of the lessons you want, students will click the start button. And for the sake of time, I'll just put in some random answers here. Just so you know, this is also very similar to how an online test would look for students as well through Hawks. But again, I'll just put in some random answers here. All right. At the top left, you can see this drop-down menu where it says question 2. Students can jump around to different questions on this just as they would with a paper pencil test. And maybe we'll answer one more. I want to show you the feedback that students receive after they complete their practice test. So at the top left, I'll go ahead and submit my assignment. This is going to give me a pop-up saying I haven't answered all of the questions, but again, we'll just click yes for the sake of time. When a student completes their practice tests, they'll be brought to this screen. They can click this blue review button, go back and see the exact practice test that they had created and the answers they submitted and the correct answers if it was incorrect. But if they scroll down, they'll see this pie chart and bar graph. The pie chart is going to show the student how they did overall on the assignment. The bar graph is going to break it down by lesson. So at the bottom of this graph, you can see each of the lessons that I included in my practice test. This is a great visual for students to see where they need to practice their time. So as a student, I can see that 2.5, I have a lot of the pinkish red, which based on the key are all the ones that I got incorrect. I can click directly onto this bar and it's going to take me to the practice mode of that specific lesson where I can work through again as many of these questions as I need. All right, so we'll go ahead and exit that. And then we'll go ahead and move into the instructor side. I'll go ahead and log in here. And again, I will just click into college algebra. That's what I have up right now, but it does all function the same. It's very easy to set up a course within Hawks. There's only 4 things that you have to do: creating your section, putting in your section start date and end date. One thing I do want to mention with that is that at the beginning of each semester, we give students 21 days of temporary access. So by putting in the start date, that starts the 21 days of the temporary access for students, since we know sometimes it can take a while for financial aid and things like that to come in. But just a few things that I do want to point out in the instructor side is first under lesson due dates. So in order to assign the pre-created homework that we have, you'll go under lesson due dates and you will click the section that you have already created. In here, you'll see a list of the lessons available. So everything that aligns with the table of contents for that title. To assign a homework lesson, you'll click on the calendar to the left, choose the date you want it due, and it automatically appears once you save your changes to the student side. So it'll appear in their to-do list. So very easy to assign those homework lessons. You do have the option to customize or the curriculum, as we call it. You can pick and choose your own questions. You can even create your own questions. So very easy to do that as well. Now coming back out to assignments, another thing I wanted to just briefly touch on are web tests. So we do have a fully created question bank that you can pull questions from. Again, you can create your own questions to include in the homework or in tests as well. But just quickly, I wanted to show you how to create a test within Hawks. You can see a list of the tests or the quizzes I've already created, but here towards the middle of the screen, you'll see this Create New button. We'll go ahead and click on that. It's going to look kind of similar to the practice test on the student side. So we'll have the question bank on the left and we'll create the test on the right. We'll give it just a second to load, but easy to pull questions from. Here, we'll just go ahead and click into the default curriculum. So we'll use the question bank from Hawks. You'll see a list of all of the chapters from college algebra. There's a couple of different ways that you can add questions. You'll see our test on the right-hand side is blank, but here I'll click into chapter 1. So the first way to add questions is you could, let's say you wanted to add 10 questions from lessons 1.1 and 1.2. We put in 10, we check the boxes here and we click add. Those will add those questions to the right. The other way to add questions to your test is by, let's jump around to a different chapter. You'll see that each lesson is hyperlinked. So we'll click into that. And now we can see the entire question bank for lesson 2.1 that I've clicked into. So here you'll see a list of all of those questions, and each question will be broken out into a smaller box. So you can easily add questions to the right. So we can click on add. If we wanted to add this question to our test, we can see it's in use one time. I can click it again if I want this question type to appear twice. So again, you can easily add any of these questions to create your test. So that's just quickly in creating a test. You can also, there's two different options as far as assigning a test. So you can export it to a Word document where you can print it for paper pencil, or you can assign it online to give it as an online test as well. But we'll go ahead and come back out. The last thing that I really wanted to point out on the instructor side is under reports. So we do offer a lot of different reporting options for you. And this is where I find most instructors spending their time after their course is created. You'll see that this page is full of reports. We have them broken up into 3 columns: grading, lessons, and web tests. But we've pulled these 4 key reports to the top of the screen. These are the reports we see being used most often. So the first one here is all student scores. This is going to be your, I call a typical grade book. You'll see your students. We'll select our section first, and then we'll click display student scores. You'll see a list of your students, their final grade, letter grade, and then the assignment groups that you would have created. You can expand any of these to see the individual scores for students. So I just call it your typical grade book, that information. You can edit due dates, you can edit the score for students from the screen. So that is under all student scores. Coming back out to reports, the next one is detailed student grades. So in this one, you will be able to see a breakdown of each of your students. And this is fake data, just so you know. These are made up students. So we can click into a student. You can see for that exact student, the lessons that they've completed, any quizzes, tests. You can see when they submitted it, if it was on time, late, or overdue, and the grades. So more detailed information on a student basis there. Coming back out to reports, this third one is search by criteria. This report you'll see is broken up into 2 different boxes. So on the left, you have the grades box, and then on the right, you have activity. So in here, let's say you want to see students with an overall grade of 0 to 80. You put in the credentials for that, and then you can filter the report. It will give you a list of those students. And then from there, you'll be able to send a message directly to those students. So if you had a list of 10 students, instead of emailing them individually and taking more time for yourself, you can go in, you will check the box for all and be able to write one message, send it to each of those students individually. So really saving you time, but still being able to address your students' needs. On the right-hand side, same thing. Maybe you want to see students who haven't logged in for a week, so we could put 7 days. You can filter the report and you would receive a list of all of those students as well. Now, the last report coming back out is assignment reviewer, and this is my personal favorite. And actually wish I had something like this when I was in the classroom. But here we will be able to see students' performance from a bird's eye view and really dive down by a per student basis and per question basis as well. So when you click into assignment reviewer, you can choose the section you want to see. And then you'll see that it's broken up by lessons or web tests. And I'll just stay in lessons because that's where I have fake data. Web test looks and functions the same way. But here on this first screen, we can see a list of all of the homework lessons that I've assigned. This will give you a great visual of where your students are as far as how many have completed it on time, how many are late, and how many are overdue. When you scroll down, you'll again see a list of all of those lessons. You'll see the number of students who have certified and the average time spent in each of those learning modes: learn, practice, and certify. From here, we can click directly into a lesson. So we'll just click into 1.1, and this is going to take us to see it on a per student basis. So here we're going to receive a list of those students. Give it a second to load. A list of those students, you can see who has mastered it and who has not. when the number of attempts that they took, when they completed it, and their individual time spent in learn, practice, or certify. You can filter any of these too. So maybe you want to pull those who have not mastered it to the top of the screen. From here, I like to point out that each of your students is going to be hyperlinked. So you can click onto a student's name and you can see each of their individual attempts. So this student has attempted it 2 times. You can click review attempts and see the exact questions that they received, what they submitted as the answer, what the correct answer is, all of that information as well. So here's an example. So here, again, you can see that this answer is incorrect. Give it a second to load. This is the correct answer, but you can see what they submitted. Coming back out, so that's under students. If we click over to analytics, this is going to give it to us on a per question basis. So again, we're still in lesson 1.1. There were 10 questions in 1.1. So here you can see that almost half of the class missed the first question. Keep in mind, this might not have been the exact first question that for each student, but you can click on the one to see the question type that the students struggled with. I have a lot of instructors that will pull this screen up in front of class because it doesn't have any individual student data, and go through the most commonly missed questions, both in the homework and on tests. Now coming back, that is everything I wanted to share in the instructor side. And I think everything else on my PowerPoint was just the reporting as well. So I am happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
All right, thank you so much, Catherine. And before we jump into those questions, I just want to give everyone a quick reminder that the link to enter to win one of the 3 $25 Amazon gift cards is available in the chat. So if you haven't already, please take a moment to enter your name to win. We'll be spinning that prize wheel right after the Q&A. All right, so we have a question in here, Catherine, about our chapter projects for students. Would you be able to kind of answer this question in 2 parts? The first with a little bit more of a statistics focus and where students might be able to find those chapter projects, and then where instructors might be able to find resources in the gradebook as well.
Absolutely. So chapter projects, and you said it was statistics focused, correct?
Yes. For example, some that might have to do with Excel or some data sets like that.
Absolutely. I'm happy to share. So we actually have a full statistics site, and I can pull that up real quick to share with you. Give me just a second and I'll share my screen again. Sometimes I feel like it's easier to see or to understand when you can see. But here we have a completely free site. It is stat.hawkslearning.com. You can use this tomorrow if you wanted to. So here, when you first go into the site, you'll see all of our statistics titles. And I think someone had said discovering business statistics, if I remember correctly. So I'll just click into that, for example. So you can choose the title that you want. Here on the screen, we have several different resources for you and your students. So the first are these data sets. So we have pre-created data sets that students can use. We are able, keeping this online, we're able to keep all of this information up to date. So these are going to be data sets that we think students are actually going to be interested in looking at. So for example, we have Amazon stock pricing, beers and breweries, campus crime, things like that. So they are available completely free to you and your students. So the next one over is technology instructions. We know technology is very important these days, and so we have fully created technology instructions that you may or your students may need. So feel free to use any of these. Coming back up, the next one over, which will hopefully specifically answer your question, are chapter projects. So again, we're in the Discovering Business Statistics. We have the chapter projects here for you or your students. Students could access this directly from this site. If you wanted to post the site into your LMS, for example, you could also download the chapter projects and post them directly within Hawks if you wanted to under the course materials. But this is where students can access those chapter projects. And then we just have some additional resources here. So for example, this one has the formulas and statistic tables. Does that help answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Catherine. And then regarding our other mathematics products, do we have chapter projects for those as well? Are those accessible to the instructors?
Yes, so we do have chapter projects. Those are available for instructors to access. Those are in the Teach platform. So the instructor side under the Help tab. So we do have instructor resources there. So the chapter projects can be accessed there, as well as fully created PowerPoints.
Excellent, thank you. We have another question here about what happens when a student does not successfully complete certified. Do they need to redo the entire set of questions in that case, or just the questions that they missed?
Good question. So when a student is not successful in certified, they are placed back into practice where they're giving this adaptive remediation. So answering questions based on what they missed. And then when they come back into certified, they're going to attempt a new set of questions. So it will be that full set of questions again, because we know that when students are completing a test and things like that, they can't pick and choose. So we do want to ask them to complete another set of questions.
Thank you. And I think that also speaks to our focus on mastery on a broader level than just question-based. So I think that's a really excellent point you make there. Another question, this one's more of a reminder. Could you remind us how long students have access to Hawks for when they purchase? And could you also remind us of the temporary access that is offered?
Absolutely. So when a student purchases their access code, either from their bookstore or directly through Hawks, they receive access for a lifetime. So even with a new edition, any updates, anything like that, they will receive all of those free. They have access to it for a lifetime. So there's no set time. I know a lot of codes will be 16 or 18-week codes. Ours is for a lifetime. And then you said about the temporary access. Students receive 21 days of temporary access at the start of each semester. So we do know that it can take some time for students' financial aid and things like that to come in. So we don't want students to start out behind. That way students can stay on track and then be able to purchase their materials.
That's great. So another question for you. As an instructor, if I wanted to add my own questions into Hawk's existing math products, am I able to do that?
Absolutely. So we have, in the instructor side, we have given you access to what we call our question builder tool. And it's actually the same tool that our content team uses in creating the questions that we have in our default content. So you can create your own questions. You can make them multiple choice, free response. We have a lot of different question types that you could use. You can also make them algorithmically generated. You can put in your own tutor feedback, that explain error. You can add all of that as well. So yes, you can create those to include.
Excellent. Now, do you provide any training for teachers or students?
Absolutely. So every school, we place a big emphasis on our support. And every school, in addition, there will be a training and support representative that is assigned to each school so that they will help with any kind of training for instructors as well as students. We are available for you or your students all the time, but each school does also have a dedicated training and support specialist to help with getting everything set up. We have been offering virtual student trainings where we'll join your first day of class or sometime in your first week of class and help make sure that all of your students are set up and ready to go.
Excellent. Another question we have in here, what is the difference in price when buying directly from Hawks and from the college bookstore?
Good question. So it's going to vary on the product, but if students purchase directly through us, the price for the single course is going to be $85.99. Again, that's directly through Hawks. We do have, for the single course, the direct to bookstore price is going to be $65. And the price for the bookstore is going to vary from school to school because there will be a markup that the bookstore places on it And again, I don't know exactly what it is for each school. So just keep in mind that there will be a little markup there.
Thank you. And another question here. Do you have any standalone adaptive homework solutions without a textbook for statistics, which could be used with an OpenStax textbook or something else? Or do my students have to use a physical textbook?
Good question. So you don't have to use a physical textbook. I actually more and more these days see instructors leaving a physical textbook completely optional. We know some students still like to have a physical book, but you can use just the online platform if you wanted to.
Excellent. And just one more question here. Let's see. Sorry about that. What is the accessibility of the courseware for students?
Absolutely. So we are fully WCAG 2.0 AA certified. So everything within the online platform is accessible for students, so they can use screen readers and things like that.
All right, excellent. So that is all the time we have for questions for today. Thank you, Catherine, for all the valuable information that you shared with us. If anyone does have any remaining questions, feel free to visit our Hawks virtual booth. That will be the best way to get immediate answers to your questions by speaking with a member of our Hawks team.